Hey, I'm Doug with Adamant Diamonds, and I'm going to discuss real quickly some of the aspects that go into thinking about shape when you're deciding what type of diamond to use as your showcase piece in your engagement ring. Shape is going to have a pretty significant influence. The shape of the diamond you choose is going to have a pretty significant influence on the overall aesthetic of the ring, and each shape is going to have different aspects that will appeal to some people and not so much to others. The first shape, the most well-known, probably the quintessential shape of a diamond when people think of the concept diamond, is the round. The round brilliant diamond is a very symmetrical, as long as it's cut well, very symmetrical look. Faces up, obviously round. The side profile of the diamond looks more like the Superman symbol. But when it is mounted, it will have a very even look, and because of this, you can mount it in a myriad of different ways. You can use your traditional 4 or 6 prong head. The biggest difference between the two is usually how the prongs or the posts that are holding the stone in place affect sort of the circumference of the stone. You can use gem lock if you want a big heavy, or you're willing to have a big heavy mounting with bars on either side of it. But great classic look, and as far as light performance goes, as long as it's a well-cut stone, nothing performs in its ability to return light and fire like a round brilliant. So that is the classic one right there. Another very popular shape is the princess cut. This particular cut is high faceted as far as the fancy shapes go. It's got great light return. Some things to pay attention to when you're looking at princess cut stones are how, basically, its length to width ratio. You want to make sure that the stone, you want to pay attention to a lot of different ratios. Have depth and table ratio, perfectly width ratios. Completely square princess cut stone. But the more square it is, usually the more desirable in the eyes of the market. And it's a great option for people that are looking for something slightly different than the traditional round, but still want pretty good light return and want something that's, for all intents and purposes, symmetrical looking. This particular ring right here is it's a 3-stone basket, what we call 3-stone Bostonian, and the princess cut is a great option for stone shape for a ring like this. You can do it with rounds, you can do it with almost any shape, but the princess cut looks good in there. Close cousin to the princess cut is the radiant. Now this particular stone is mounted in a very sort of fancy and elegant and antique looking style mounting. It's got the halo, it's got bead set diamonds all around it, but the radiant cut is again, high faceted. It's actually very close in terms of its fastening to the princess cut. Thing is, with traditional radiants, they're slightly more elongated, so they're slightly more rectangular, and the corners are cut off. The cut corners make it a great candidate for anything with a bezel. This particular mounting may look like it's a bezel from a distance, but it's actually, even though it's got the halo, the stone is held by prongs. But the cut corners enable you to bezel set, and what's great is, depending on hand build, some women prefer to have the stone elongated, some prefer to have it more square. One thing to pay attention to with stones, when you start stretching them out, the bottom facets of the stone, as you elongate the stone, will stretch out themselves, and you can sometimes have some light loss right in the middle of the stone, so pay attention to that. But that is the radiant. While we were just talking about bezel sets, I'll go to this next contender we have here. This is a cushion. Now this cushion cut is bezel set with the halo. This is a Tiffany Legacy style ring. Very nice, very popular right now. But the cushion cut is kind of a throwback to old cutting techniques, old diamond cutting techniques, where facets were big and heavy. And in recent times, that particular cut has had a real resurgence in popularity with diamond consumers. We've sold a ton of those this year. Something to pay attention to with cushion cuts. Not all cushion cuts are going to look the same. Unlike some of these other shapes where you can have, a princess cut that might be more elongated or a radiant that might be more square, you're not going to see a ton of differences between those shapes within the family of that particular shape. Cushion cut, totally different beast. I've seen cushion cuts that are virtually, they almost look like old miners cuts or rose cuts, huge crowns. They've got the big kind of hole on the bottom of the stone with a flat Q-lip. And I've also seen cushion cuts that have the appearance almost of a radiant. They've got softer corners, but they've got huge tables and faceting that looks very similar to a radiant. For some of you, it's not going to matter, but for others, that the draw to the cushion cut is that big, heavy faceting. So that's something to pay attention to, and it's actually something you're not really going to be able to tell when looking at specs listed on a website or on a certification. It's something you're going to have to see in person. Another option is the pear shape. Pear shape is, we don't sell a whole lot of pears, to be honest, under 3 carats. We get a lot of requests for big pear shapes. Rare that we get them under 3 carat. Rarely do we build rings with pear shapes these days under 3 carats. We build different finished jewelry options with pear shapes, but for engagement rings, anything under 3 carats is not so popular right now. But it's a very distinctive look. You can do a number of different things with a pear shape as far as settings are concerned. It is marquee cuts are basically they look like a football. That's what I refer to them as when guys come in and say, I think she likes the marquee or the football shape. Marquee is basically an eye. It is a pear shape with 2 points on either end. Pear shape is rounded on one side, pointed on the other. With both pear and marquee, you want to pay attention again, like the radiant or anything that's elongated, to the light loss that might occur in the stone due to stretched out facets on the bottom of the stone. That light loss in a marquee or an oval will show up in the form of a bow tie. You can actually do some research on bow tie effect in diamonds and find a little bit about that. And then lastly, what I've got here is an emerald cut diamond. The emerald cut diamond is a rectangular shaped stone. It has this reverse staircase effect when you look into it. It's very elegant. It's very unique. It doesn't have it's not designed to return light the way these other high faceted stones are. It's more designed to look into, and it's a classic sort of vintage type cut diamond, and this also has seen some resurgence in popularity recently. It has a close cousin called the Asher, which is basically just a square equilateral version of this, and that the past 2 years has become very popular as well. One of the things you've got to pay attention to if you are on the market for an Asher or an emerald cut stone is that clarity is going to probably be something you're going to spend some money on. And by that I mean inclusions in the area of VS2, SI, and maybe even SI2. Some people are willing to have those types of inclusions in their stone because of the high faceting, the light return, the busyness that's going on inside the diamond. It's very, very difficult to see any of those types of inclusions. SI2, not so much, but VS2 and SI1. Whereas in step cut stones like emeralds and ashers, the stones are designed to look into. It's very easy to identify imperfections in these step cut stones. Basically, it's like looking into a window. And the faceting that you see, that's so so appealing to you. Those of you that like this type of shape and like that staircase effect, just understand that those facets that create that stair cut effect are under the stone, and if you can see those easily, you're going to see anything inside the stone. So that's something to keep in mind. Actually, here's an example of very nice stone, great length to width ratio. I think it's this is probably a G colored stone. Yeah, this is a G color SI1 GIA certified emerald cut. And yet, when I look in this stone, I can pinpoint the inclusion even this far away. I can see it with my eye. And it has nothing to do with the size of the inclusion or anything like that. It's just that in an emerald cut stone, a step cut stone, they're pretty easy to identify. Anyway, that's those are some thoughts on shape. There's a whole lot more involved when you're looking at stones and shape. Like I had mentioned just a little while ago, the build of the hand that's going to be wearing the stone, the type of mounting, those are all going to probably affect what stone will work best for you. But those are some things to keep in mind as you do your shopping. As always, if there's anything that we can help you with, or if you have any questions or would like to set up a time to come in and talk with one of us, please let us know. We're here at your disposal as needed. Take care.